What's up, Jared?
Oh, look at that jacket.
Yeah, I was looking for some compliments to
It's a
start the
great
show.
jacket. It's a solid jacket. It's the nicest jacket I think I've ever seen.
Dude, the funny thing is, so in addition to you wearing the jacket, I went to one of the playoff games and it was so fucking cold sitting on like the left field roof that I had no option but to like buy something from the pro shop. And this is by far the warmest, but also like a size too big. But
that's
You'll
not
grow
a
into
size
it.
too big.
Yeah.
That looks like a solid size that's fitting you right now.
it works. But
What size is it?
I
Medium?
think this is a extra large.
No, boy. It's a grown-up size.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for hopping on with us, man. Appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, I'm sorry about last time. I'm
Don't
actually at my parents right now. This
Okay.
room is this was my childhood bedroom when I was born up until I graduated high school. This was my
Oh, that's
bedroom.
sick. They're more than welcome to join if they want to, if they're around.
chilling. Yeah, she'll
okay.
probably pop in.
Oh, wait, really random question, Jared. You went to Endicott, right?
I did.
Is there any chance that you ran into a Donnie Talbert?
I went to night school, so everyone, like every single classmate that I had was over the age of like 75.
Gotcha. Yeah,
that
he was like 20, so yeah.
It was
I wouldn't
literally
fit the
all
bill.
just people going back to get second degrees because they were changing their career paths and shit like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Good age to do it. Yeah, Soapy, you can get us started today. I know you're talking to Jared offline, so whatever you guys had talked about, we do want to respect your time too. I know I think the meeting like defaults to like an hour, but whatever works for you, even if it's like 25, 30 minutes or
Yeah, no, we can whatever you
Whatever.
guys want to do. Yeah.
okay. I'll keep an eye on the clock. Shouldn't go much longer than that.
Cool.
Sweet. All right. I've already hit record. But this is episode 155 of the Morse Code Podcast. Dan's here. I'm here. We got a very special guest. There's
Rockets here.
multiple ways. Yeah, the Rocket. There's multiple ways to introduce him. He is a certified G and a bona fide stud. And you cannot teach that. Absolutely cannot teach that. He's also the host of Section 10 and the host of, or maybe I should call you co-host of Call Him Papi. Great program. The Saugus Rocket, Jared Carrabis. How we doing?
What's going on, guys? I love the introduction. That was very solid. I mean, anytime that you can throw out a humble brag that you have a podcast with David Ortiz, I'm going to take it.
Yeah. We rehearsed it for over an hour, so I'm glad Soapy delivered it well.
But yeah, thanks for coming on, man. How's the baseball off season, aka we may never
Season,
get baseball
potentially.
again? How's that going for you?
Yeah, I mean, the off season for me, it's always an experience of I usually watch horror movies every single night, so I'm always looking for new horror movies. And then kind of once you get through all the good ones, that's when you get into the weird ones. So that's the part of the off season I'm in now. Is I think like the last horror movie that I watched was called like Killer Couch or something like that, and it's what you would think. It's about a couch that kills people. So yeah, we're running out of quality because tomorrow's February, so yeah, right around the time that you get into movies like Killer Couch, that's when you know that spring training is around the corner. But unfortunately, I mean, 2 weeks out, I don't think that we're going to be sending pitchers and catchers down to Fort Myers.
Well, I'm a pretty big horror movie fan myself, so I could definitely give you a recommendation. I'm going to grab my remote in a second because I saw one of the best horror movies I've ever seen pretty recently. And it was on demand from 2021. I'll pull it up in a sec, but
you'll have to make me a recommendation list because I'll just burn through those.
Okay, we can do that.
Work too. What did we just see? We talking about? I watched the new Paranormal Activity whenever that came out.
Fun fact: my name is in the credits for the original Paranormal Activity movie. Because
you were in it?
No,
you played the demon?
One of the ghosts or something.
So they did this thing. What year is that? Like 2010, I want to say 2009.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And there was this website called, I believe it was called Demand It. And it was originally used for like unsigned music artists, but they had followings on social media or whatever. So they would use this website called Demand It, and they would put it out to their fans on social media. And that's how they would gauge like what cities I should go play shows in, based on like, that's how they gauge their demand. And I think Paranormal Activity was the first movie to use Demand It, because when it first was created, it was just like some independent film, and they were trying to use Demand It to be like, hey, like we want to open nationwide in actual movie theaters. And I think it was like, if we got X amount of demands, then it would open in theaters across the country. So they put the names of like the first X amount of people to demand it in the credits at the end of the movie once it got released. So
that's sick. That's a cool fun fact that we can get, that I'm sure will go viral the second we release this. No, actually, do you like the Paranormal Activity movies? Like
I
series?
do.
Big fan. Me too.
I don't like ghost movies, but I love those ones.
Yep.
I don't know why. I don't know why those ones get a free pass, but I don't like I don't know. I need the threat to be tangible.
Yeah, so it's got to be real. It can't be a ghost, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need to watch a movie. Like if I'm gonna watch a horror movie, I need somewhat, not necessarily something like all realism. Like obviously, like Jason, he doesn't die. Like you can't kill that guy. But it needs to be like, this could potentially happen, maybe.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like as those movies go on, the first one is pretty much just like you don't see anything. It's just whatever, the lady, shit, like stuff, weird stuff happens like while they're trying to sleep. But as the movies go on, yeah, there's like possessed people and like actual like scary things. I thought they got like almost like maybe not better and better, but I like the newest one. And the only reason I brought it up because you mentioned horror movies. I still need to tap into Midsummer. I know Soapy highly suggested that one to me. Have you seen that movie?
So when we went to the Super Bowl in Miami in 2020, right before the world shut down, everyone went out to the club one night. And then I was like, cool, I'm going to go back to my hotel room by myself and watch this movie because it looks really cool. So I did that while everyone else was like partying until 5 o'clock in the morning.
You had enough from the night before is what you're saying.
So I don't like to do anything. Like
I've heard that about you.
Same.
Yeah. Like we talked about that on an episode of Section 10 recently, where me and Pat talked about wanting to buy a Section 10 bar. And he was like, yeah, like I want to incorporate different things in the bar about us. So we're going to have like an arcade for Coley. We'll have a pitching machine for Pat. And then for Jared, we'll have a quiet room where you can go to be by yourself. And I was like, that's awesome. I love that.
Dude,
yeah, I would visit that place.
Yeah, I think that bar could work anywhere.
I mean, it could happen.
That's true.
It could happen.
Have Pat just add an extension to McSwilly's, or I still don't even know what the real name of that bar. McSwiggins, right?
McSwilbos.
Okay. So since you mentioned Section 10, I feel like our recent conversation started because I had tweeted what I think is one of the funnier clips in a podcast, which was when you guys fucking roasted the shit out of Pat. I feel like not even
time.
Yeah.
Huh?
Said which time?
Yeah. So I feel like this time it wasn't even necessarily. No, it was pretty intentional because it was obviously the Mike Trout strikeout thing, and Coley was like, "Oh." Pat was talking about how he and Clay Buchholz had both pitched that day. Yes. And Coley was like, wow. So imagine being on the other side of that, being on the Angels and being like, yeah, we got Mike Trout and Albert Pujols, but on the other side, it's Pat Light and Clay Buchholz. Like, watch out. And then you guys were silent for like 2 minutes.
And then I think the best line was when Coley said, "Can't believe that didn't work." Like, oh, you guys got Trout and Pujols. Check this out. We got Pat Light and Clay Buchholz. Yeah. They lost, I believe it was 23-2 or something like that.
That's a shame. Hate to see that. How's that transition been? How do you guys feel about the new co-host since Steve moved on?
I mean, it's different, but it works. I mean, Pat's very funny. Yeah. I still think that Pat hasn't quite hit his stride yet. Like he's trying to like find his place and get comfortable because that's Pat. Like Pat, like I knew that when we added Pat that he wasn't going to be like, all right, now's my chance to like grab the brass ring and take this show by the balls. And like he's not like, he's like, hey, like I know my role. Like I know that like this is your guys' show. And like I'm just gonna hang back and try to contribute where I can. But I've tried to tell him like I want you to be aggressive. Like I don't want to have to prompt you to speak. I want you to get in there because he's so naturally funny. And obviously, he played in the big leagues. He knows a lot about baseball. Me and Coley can learn from him the experiences that he's had. So we're trying to get him to a point where he knows where to get in. I think with him, he doesn't want to overstep his boundaries, but I want him to overstep. It's not possible for him to overstep his boundaries. Like the more he talks, the better, I think. And if we want him to shut up, we'll just say, shut up, Pat.
Yeah, that's fair. I actually just thought of a question. So we do a lot with Tyler Trill Withers on his show, and he's been on our show and stuff. And we ask him a lot about, what prep was like for mixtape. And basically like, I can't stress enough, we don't do any prep at all.
Yeah.
What is like prep in, pre-show look like for section 10 or like the days leading up to an episode or the group chat or anything like that?
I mean, the prep is just hoping that Pat shows up.
Open the internet connections hold up.
Yeah. And
that's how timid he is about stepping on your toes. He's like, well, if I just don't show up, then there's no risk of that.
Yeah. I talked to Pat this morning and I was like, how was your weekend? And he's like, well, I'm talking to you on an Apple Watch right now because I destroyed my phone and my laptop. So we're recording this week and I don't know if Pat's going to be there because he doesn't have a cell phone. He does not have a laptop. So who knows what's going to happen, but yeah, prep wise, we don't do any. Yeah, I think it's usually we all know what the stories are that we're going to talk about. And then we kind of we see where it goes, and everyone's pretty good on like thinking on their feet.
I was going to say, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think, those type of shows like you guys who can go anywhere from an hour to like 3 hours, and same with, like the show we mentioned before, it's hard to prep for 3 hours. It's much easier, I'm sure, to have a handful of headlines and whatever, and just, let it record and see where it goes. The hell was I going to say? The only other thing I wanted to ask you before I pass it back off to Soapy, I just thought of this too, talking about, you mentioned David Ortiz later. Let's go back in time to the 2018 Red Sox parade real quick. My first question is, how hungover were you the next day or maybe that evening? And any good stories from that day or that, handful of days that you can share with us that you've either shared before or maybe you haven't?
So I wasn't hungover at all because I actually passed out at 7 p.m.
I actually died at 5 o'clock.
Yeah. I think it was funny because like I was blackout drunk and Dave Portnoy texted me and Coley in a group text to like yell at us about not promoting shirts enough or something like that. And I was so drunk that like Coley responded back immediately and was like, we're so sorry. Like, we should have done better. And then I was like, fuck you, Dave. Like let us have our moment, dude. Like, fuck off. And I don't remember texting him at all, but I fought for our right to party. I don't remember a ton after getting off the boats. Like I know Mark Bertrand did something super dangerous. I have the Sports Hub in my phone. So they called me from the Sports Hub number to put me on the air. And I saw Sports Hub and I was like, I'm way too drunk to talk on the radio right now. So I didn't answer. And then I see Mark Bertrand, he called me from his cell phone. And I thought like he was calling me like in between commercials or something like that to be like, hey, do you want to come on? So he calls me and put his phone up to the microphone. I was on the air through his cell phone. And I think they hung up. I think I said shit. So they had to like drop the call, but I had no
That's
idea.
not your fault. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a high risk maneuver.
But that could have been way worse.
That could have been
like
bad.
that could have been way worse.
No.
So there was that. Apparently, because we did like all the segments on like Andrew Benintendi and when he got the girlfriend and we were calling him Benny boyfriend and stuff. Apparently, I met the secret girlfriend. Don't remember that. Like, I apparently that happened. The next day, like I said, I wasn't hungover because I slept for like 14 hours. But the next day, my ribs hurt, and I was like, "Why do my ribs hurt?" And Coley was like, "You were doing like football drills in the outfield with Brian Johnson." And I was like, "What?"
Oklahoma drills.
Yes. Yeah.
with the entire bullpen.
Yeah. He was like, "You're doing Oklahoma drills with Brian Johnson in the outfield after the parade." Then apparently like we went to Baseball Tavern after, and that was the first time that I got Garen Austin's cell phone number. And I was like, "Yeah, babe, like we'll totally like meet up later." And I just went to sleep. When we were at the bar, like the Nesson girls were there, and I ended up like, I was talking to them like months later, and I was like, "Oh man, like you guys missed an awesome time." Like we went to the Baseball Tavern, and they were like, "We were there, like we were with you, like we have like a picture together." And they like showed me this picture of like all of us in the basement, and I was like, did not remember even seeing you. They were like, "We were with you for like a good hour."
Yeah,
like,
we shared like great memories. I'll never forget that night.
Yeah.
I tell my kids about that night.
Yeah.
So how does something like that come to be? Like when was that more of an impromptu thing, or like going into playoffs where you like, "Hey, if and when we win, I'd like to be part of the duck boat celebration, please."
I'd like to catch beers during the parade, please.
Yeah. That was I had a get out of jail free card with Dave because Dave was pissed that we weren't promoting or whatever. Because in his mind, we were on the duck boats because of Barstool, which was not the case. So originally it was, we had an ad deal with New Era, and New Era had 2 spots on Mookie's duck boat, and like the Red Sox basically caught wind that me and Coley were getting the New Era spots on the duck boat, and we were going to wear the hats and do like a swipe up ad or something like that. So we go from LA after the Red Sox, or I did. I went from LA to New York, found out about the New Era deal, went from New York to Boston, and then on the train to Boston is when like the Red Sox were like, "Yeah, like New Era can't just like give their spots to people. Like that's for New Era people, and like you're not New Era." And I was like, "Okay." And then they were like, "But like, can you work with us? Like can you like, do you want to like walk alongside the duck boat?" And I was like, "No." I was like, if I'm not gonna be in the duck boat or on it, I'm all set. Like I'm just gonna turn right around and go back to New York. And they were like, "All right, well, like let us figure something out." And then like that's when I talked to JD, and I was like explaining what was going on, and then we kind of like worked something out. He's like, "Yeah, just like come on our boat." So then I told the Red Sox, I was like, JD said it was cool if we go on his boat. Can we do that? And they were like, "Sure."
Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you told the Red Sox? Like who are you talking to? Just like some like organizer
like,
person?
Yeah, like
That's
something.
so funny.
Yeah, it was like an event.
JD said come through. So
yeah. So like JD was like, "All right, yeah, like you can come on my boat." So me and Coley got there super early. Like we were the first people on a duck boat, period, like of any duck boat, not just ours. We got on, and then it was JD, his parents and his buddy from home. And then it was Devers and Hector Velasquez. And so when the parade started, we were down inside the duck boat, and there's like out the back, there's like a platform out the back. And 5 minutes into the parade, JD is just like, what are you guys doing down there? Like, come up here. And we were like, well, we didn't want to like, I mean, we're not going to like try and make it about
we're not on the team.
But. Yeah. Like we didn't get any outs. We didn't drive any runs in this. So we were just going to assume that we were going to be up there. And he was like, "Yeah, like come up here." So we just like went up there and had the best day of my life. Bar none.
You guys went from like New Era was trying to trying to get you to like drive the fucking duck boat to then
Mhm.
being on the boat of, arguably the best player on the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was
not
crazy
bad.
too, because obviously I think there's a media duck boat. I don't know if there was one for that parade specifically, but I know in other parades there's like a duck boat for media. And I think that's what the deal was. Like media was pissing and moaning about it because there wasn't a media duck boat, and they were like, well, why does he get to go on and we can't? And it's like, well, because like the players don't like you. Like, so it's like, yeah, like he's on as like a guest of a player, you guys are just media that the players don't like. But the
you
cool
didn't have
thing
Dan
about
Shaughnessy sitting next to you?
No, he wishes. He called me yesterday or the other day, and I was like, yeah, your ballot sucks. Yeah. I love Dan, but he's an asshole. So the cool thing about it was, we're looking out into the crowd and there are signs for us and people are wearing our merch. And it's like, yeah, like we weren't on the team, but it sure as hell felt like it. Like when you're having a World Series celebration parade and you're looking out into the crowd and there's Stay Hot Rocket signs and there's like all like signs for the nicknames that we had. And there you can see Section 10 flags. People are flying Section 10 flags out the fucking windows of buildings and everything. It was really cool. That was, I don't think you can top 18. Like that was a huge year.
Well, that's cool too, because it's not like, when people were driving down to go to the parade, they knew you guys were going to be there, so they, you know what I mean? Or maybe they did. I don't know. I forget what
it was a very
what the promo was like going into it.
Yeah, it was a very late development. It was like it might have been confirmed the morning of the parade or something.
Gotcha. Still, I mean, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, enough time to whip up a sign, I guess. But that was absolutely insane.
Jared, so you mentioned like the whole media thing and Beetle calling you from the Sports Hub.
Yeah.
What do you think of, and I know you have relations with, a couple of the guys that work there. I understand the streets say you may be related to Jim Murray.
Correct. We didn't know that until somewhat recently, though.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
So what goes through your head, like when you hear Felger or Maz or whatever firing off hot takes, especially when all the other sports are done? Like, do you get really pissed? Do you really look forward to coming on the baseball show and doing the weekly spot with Maz?
I love doing the baseball show with Maz. Every time Felger shoots his mouth off about me, I love it. Like the fact that, because he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. Like you want to say that, well, actually, no, so the point that he made, because we go back and forth with each other on like him saying no one cares about baseball. And I was like, if no one cared about baseball, I wouldn't have a job. And I wouldn't like look at like the Twitter engagement numbers. Like if people didn't care about baseball, no one is engaging with the stuff that I'm putting out there. Like that's just a fact. And then he countered by saying, he's like, baseball is not popular. Jared Carrabis is popular. And I was like, but Jared Carrabis is popular because of baseball. Like what don't you get? It's not like I'm on Twitter talking about anything else than baseball. So I think they go hand in hand. But I love when he talks about me because I love confrontation, and I kind of got away from that with Section 10. Like the early stages of Section 10 were, we obviously came after Pablo and Clay Buchholz, and like we really laid into the players that weren't performing well. And I don't enjoy that anymore because like one, they do care, and it doesn't really benefit us to make enemies on the team. You don't know who they're friends with. Like Clay was friends with everyone. So when we came at Clay, like all the other players were like, yeah, like, fuck this guy. We won't do anything with him. Like it's like a betrayal to Clay. So yeah, I think for Section 10, it's an entertainment show. It's not journalism. We're not like breaking down X's and O's. It's for fun. It's an extra layer of like we want to give the fans that extra enjoyment of being a Red Sox fan. You enjoy watching the games, and then you enjoy hearing them be human beings with us. So that's what it's all about. But when it comes to Felger, that gives me, because I'm good at it. Like I'm good at confrontation, but when you don't have the ability to to go at the players on the Red Sox. Like those are the ones like if someone really sucks, you feel passionately about that and you can destroy this guy. Well, I'm not going to do that. But with Felger, not only can you do that, but he likes when you do it too. So it's the match made in heaven.
When you first, I feel like I still remember the first time I saw you on TV was back when it was still Comcast Sportsnet New England.
Mm-hmm.
Were you already like part-time or in any capacity at Barstool at that point when you were first on TV in Boston?
Yeah. So I started part-time at Barstool in 2014.
Okay.
I went full-time I think like the anniversary is like coming up. I went full-time in February of 2016. And then that's right around the time that I started doing TV at Comcast. So I started off kind of doing like whatever talk shows that they had as a guest in 2016. And then they threw me on the baseball show. And then I did that for 2017, halfway through 2017, because then that summer is when I moved to New York. So I did like a year and a half of the baseball show. But yeah, no, it was fun. I liked working there.
Yeah. I had a question I wanted to ask you. So speaking of, you mentioned one of the differences is you have relationships with potential guests on the show or people who actually were on the show on the team. Going back to like early days of Section 10, I forget when did the show start?
Like February of 2015.
Damn. And you're on episode like 4 something at this point?
450.
That's crazy. Going back to when you first started it, I guess maybe 2 parts. Like who was the first guest you had that was really like, wow, like this is kind of cool, surreal. And then who was the one, maybe it's still a whale for you if either you haven't had on yet, or who was the first like big get you guys were aiming for once you guys started to get rolling?
I mean, Nomar is the white whale of the show. I mean, we still really haven't, like technically David Ortiz came on in 2018 for 5 minutes.
Nice.
He came into the office and then they booked him for starting 9. And then they booked him for Pardon My Take, which like, whatever, like Pardon My Take's a juggernaut. But like, I went to like the talent bookers and I was like, why are you booking David Ortiz for starting 9? Like he's the most important player in Red Sox history. We have a Red Sox podcast. Like, what are we doing here? So like, I flipped the fuck out and they were like, all right, so like, we're going to put aside like 5 minutes for Section 10. And I was like, what can we do in 5 minutes? But like, it was more just, I guess, getting his name on the title of the episode and like hearing our voices in the same room than anything. But yeah that was always like a point of contention with starting 9 was when they would book like when Alex Cora got hired, they booked him for starting 9. Andrew Benintendi got booked for starting 9. Like the first time I interviewed him was for starting 9. First time I interviewed Pedroia was for starting 9. And I was like, dude, like there are 29 other fucking teams. Like, what are you doing? Like, there's plenty of other people we could have on starting 9. We have a Red Sox podcast, like book them for the Red Sox podcast. And I know like Dallas would hate it too. Cause he's like, well, that limits us as a show. And it's like, but there's 29 other
but not really.
Yeah. I was like, the
just
people
get your favorite Kansas City Royal.
Yeah. I was like, the people that follow me want to hear those players on Section 10. Like, it's just different. It's different on starting 9. Like people like Red Sox fans want to hear their guys on a Red Sox fan friendly platform. So, but yeah, Ortiz, I guess I would want to do a redo on Section 10 and then Nomar. We've never done Nomar. I would say like the first time it was ever like, holy shit. I don't know. I mean, that even though it was for 5 minutes, I remember I couldn't sleep the night before I had Ortiz on. Like we knew that he was coming into the office and I knew it was going to be brief, but I was still like, oh my God, like I am going to sit in a room and talk to David Ortiz. Like, holy shit. Yeah. So I guess that's probably like when I got to interview Cora in the dugout, that was a big deal. So like 2018 was such a turning point for the show because that was the first year that we got credentials. Like they wouldn't credential us before that. And because of Dallas, really, we went to Oakland in April of 2018 when Sean Manaea threw the no-hitter against the Red Sox, and the A's credentialed me there. So I like a light bulb went off my head, and I contacted the Red Sox, and I was like, hey, why can't I get press passes here? And they're like, well, we have this policy, and like it has to be like print media. And I was like, change the fucking policy. Like, what are you talking? Like, just because it existed before doesn't mean that it has to exist forever. It's like, it's not the Constitution. So I was like, I think like the point that I tried to make was like, listen, I'm not trying to put anyone else down, but there is not a person in your press box right now with a press pass who has a bigger audience for Red Sox fans than I do. So you can either give me a press pass or you can just live in the past, and I don't, and it won't make any sense. And you'll just be justifying it by being like, yeah, well, that's just what the rules are. And it's like,
yeah,
well,
I don't understand that either. It benefits them probably just as much as you.
Yeah. And they were totally cool about it. Like once I explained it like that, they were like, all right, yeah, like let's take a look at this. And, I think like the press pass that they give me now, it says like online only. Like they have to like make even the press pass kind of like signifies like he's in here, but he's not real media. So like, yeah, like I don't even get the same press pass that like the other guys do. And it's like, whatever. Like I don't care about, like, I'm never going to go in the media room. I'm never going to go in the clubhouse. I'm never going to go in the press box. The only time I go in the press box is to use the candy machine and the soda machine. That's it. I'll pop in there to get my snacks during the game. I use it to get on the field for batting practice. That's where I talk to the guys. That's where you build the relationships so that they eventually want to come on the podcast. But so yeah, all that to say that first year, 18, was when we got the press passes and we were able to interview Cora in the dugout and Mitch Moreland and JD right before the playoffs. It was like on that workout day before game one of the division series, we did JD in the dugout. And ever since then, it's just kind of like been all uphill in terms of being able to build those relationships because they finally like let us have press passes.
Yeah, say it. Well, you have trumps like any of the other shit anyways, because obviously you've built like more real relationships as opposed to strictly ask. I mean, I know you ask them about the gameplay and stuff that happens on the field, but obviously you talk about, I'm guessing, other casual conversation from just getting to know people. So clearly, clearly the right decision. And I was just going back to the Ortiz thing really quickly about him being booked for other shows. I picture you like checking the podcast app on your phone and being like, what the fuck is David Ortiz doing on the Foreplay podcast?
Yeah.
What's he doing on Call Her Daddy?
Chicks in the Office.
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy. Like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like Section 10, we really had to prove ourselves because I remember when I moved to New York and Dave called me in his office. Starting 9 didn't exist yet. And he was like, all right, what do you want to do with Section 10? Because I know what I want to do with it. And I was like, well, what do you want to do with it? And he was like, cancel it. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, like we need a national baseball podcast. Like, you can't just be Red Sox anymore. And I was like, I can do both. Like, you sure you can do both? And it's like, yeah, I can do both. And so, I mean, we really had to, like, Starting 9 was awesome. And it's I love working with Dallas. He's so smart. Like working with Dallas made me better. I think working with Coley made me funnier. Working with Dallas made me smarter and in a way like hungrier because that's a dude that, he made a decent amount of money in the big leagues. I think he like banked like $8 million in his big league career. So it's like, he's doing fine, but he's not like set for life. So he was out there grinding and he had no ego about it. Like the dude threw a perfect game in the big leagues and he's still out there trying to wheel and deal with advertisers and going down to spring training. And it's long days. Like the Spikes Up tour was literally, wake up at 6 a.m. on the bus by 7 a.m. and you're grinding all day. And then you're on the bus traveling to the next town, sometimes 3-4 hours at night. And then you get into the hotel you check into the next hotel at midnight, and then you do it all over again the next day and move on to the next town. I mean, Dallas Braden is doing this. It's a former big league player. And we're doing that for like 10 straight days. And then we take a week off, and then we go to Arizona, or we go to Florida, whatever. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how we got on blowing Dallas, but
yeah, me neither. That's okay though.
Yeah,
that's okay. You were talking about like Dave. That's actually a funny story. Like you each go with your ideas for the show. His is cancel it, and yours is I'm sure polar opposite.
Yeah, his is cancel it. Mine is like, hey, I
let's do two of them.
Yeah, let's do two. And at times, you know, it was very. We were on an island by ourselves. Like Starting Nine was clearly the Barstool baseball brand. And we had talent bookers that would go out and get us, you know, big name players, and they would coordinate the spring training tours and all that. Like that was the show that Barstool put its weight behind. And Section 10, it was a complete afterthought from the company. But oftentimes you would look at the Apple baseball podcast trending charts. Section 10 was number one, I think, more than Starting Nine was. And that's all just from me going to Fenway every single Friday. I don't think I've missed a Friday Red Sox home game since I've been at Barstool, or at least since I've had the press passes in 2018. Every single Friday on the field, networking, talking to people, meeting people, building relationships to hopefully get them on the podcast. And then it just kept going. So pretty much every single guest we've ever had on Section 10, that was from us. That was from relationships that we've been able to build through social media or through meeting them in person. If there is one person, I can't think of who it might be that got booked by a talent booker for Section 10. Like it's been a complete, just like grassroots, we did it ourselves type deal. So that's honestly like what I'm most proud of there.
Saugus, rags to riches.
Yeah.
So I was stalking you a little bit, admittedly, on Instagram.
I love that.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Just doing some research. And I saw that you said, I know you said this multiple times, but that your ultimate goal is for you to basically for your name to be the first one that comes up if someone says like, who's the best at creating baseball content, you know, outside of the players themselves. And then I saw last night, or maybe it was the night before, you tweeted that if you could come back and be like reincarnated, you'd want to come back as Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
Because you're watching Royal Rumble and he was doing the commentary. So my question is, you've now done, you know, 2 major podcasts. You have the show with Big Papi. You write. What else do you want to do that you haven't done? Like, could you ever see yourself? Growing up, did you ever want to be like a Red Sox, like a play-by-play guy by any chance or anything like that? Like, what else do you want to do?
So, I mean, let's just say that so obviously what is it? It is Monday.
Yep.
Monday, January 31st.
31st.
As of right now, I'm still free agent. I haven't signed anywhere. That like the main piece.
We could use you, by the way. We could use a baseball guy.
I'd love to join the show if you'll have me. I think what I'm going to be doing this year that'll be super different from anything else I've ever done before is like stuff like that, like side work where like I want to pop up in different places and I want to do stuff like that. Like I want to get involved with the Red Sox broadcast. Like I want to pop up on MLB Network and do stuff like that. I think it's just like I think as far as the Barstool space, I think I've grown as much as I can. I think if you're a Barstool fan, you've made up your mind about me one way or another. I think if you're a baseball fan, the jury is still out in some corners of the internet. I think that there's still baseball fans that maybe have never heard of me. I think that there are still some baseball fans that don't know what to make of me. So my goal really is to grow in the baseball space as much as I can. And I think being able to do stuff like that, like if there were an opportunity with the broadcast, I'd love to be able to do it. If there were opportunities with MLB Network, I would be ecstatic to be able to do that as well. And kind of just come up with like new, fresh ideas with baseball content, because when I first started out, it was obviously a lot of like, all right, let's make waves, like let's make a name for ourselves by being like the edgy guy or whatever, and that, like, it's not rewarding. It's kind of just like, it feels cheap, and I didn't like it at all.
I feel like you're playing a role almost.
Yeah, it felt like I was catering to what I thought people wanted from me versus what, just doing what I want to do and like what I felt like I was best at. So I mean, like, it's humble brag, like I'm friends with a lot of guys in the league. Like I feel like there's a lot of baseball content that I can make that I haven't really been able to make because of like the pandemic and like traveling and being around players and stuff like that. Like a lot of like the relationships that I've made with guys started in 2019, but have really grown a lot since then. But I haven't been able to see a lot of these guys. Like one of the guys that like I talk to like most is Bryce Harper. Dude just won the MVP. He could be the face of the league, you know? And it's like, what content, like when we did the interview with Bryce Harper, I thought it was awesome because he never does stuff like that. I would love to do more stuff with him. I want to do more stuff with like guys like Christian Yelich and Alex Bregman, who I think is really in an awkward spot because of the association to the cheating scandal, but is an all around great fucking dude. Like I know that people don't want to admit that. Bregman is an awesome dude. And I'd love for people to be able to see that side of him, because he can't, at this point, he makes his own content, but he can't be like, hey, like, look at me. Like I'm putting myself on. He needs someone else to put him on that like will vouch for him and be like, hey, I accept your apology. We're all ready to move on. Bregman, like, you know, he was what, 22 at the time. Like, let's all move on. This is Alex Bregman now, the adult, the married guy, whatever. So there's so many different layers to it. And then, yeah, like I that's the type of content that I want to make, is like the humanizing the player content versus like, all right, so, you know, like what pitches do you throw? And like, show me how to throw your slider. It's like, there's plenty of like I'm leaving that shit to Pitching Ninja. He's the best. I'm not going to pretend to be anything close to Pitching Ninja when you're talking about that stuff. And then doing the podcast with Dallas, he's the pitching guy. He can break down X's and O's. I just like breaking down the human being. Like that's the stuff that I find interesting.
Yeah. That's a fire podcast name. I accept your apology. The Alex Bregman and Jared Carrabis show.
I would love to do something with that.
You struck him out once wiffle ball wise, right? Or am I thinking of just Dallas?
No, he didn't even want to face Bregman. He was too much of a little girl to face Bregman.
Tough look.
It was 2 at bats. The first at bat, I struck him out. He said it was a ball. The camera shows that it was a strike 3 looking. I did get a swing and miss. in the fastball. And then the second at bat, he hit a home run into free parking.
Boy,
but I was out of gas by that point.
Yeah, that's fair. My last question, I guess it would make sense for us to hit on this real quick. I mean, what are your, as someone inside as you, baseball in 2022, what does that look like ideally, or maybe what does that look like realistically? What are you thinking as far as the work stoppage goes?
I think that both sides, I think the players have more of a case than the owners, but the owners have
actually
more
real quick,
power.
could you give a little insight into what actually is going on? Like what like technically is why there isn't baseball?
Yeah. So the owners and the play, like this basically all goes back to almost last year. I mean, they've been fighting for years, but it kind of came to a head during 2020 when the players were like, just tell us when and where. And then the owners then the owners told them when and where. And then the players were like, yeah, but for this amount of money. So they were like moving the goalposts, and it kind of got a little ugly and like a little silly because I think the public was more siding with the players by that point. And then when the players said, just tell us when and where to play, and then the owners told them, and then they still didn't play, that's when the fans are just like, all right, everybody sucks. In this particular instance with the lockout, they're negotiating the new CBA, and there's multiple points of contention, but the biggest one for the players is that they want to reach free agency sooner. And the reason why they want to do that is because the average length of a major league career has gotten shorter. And then it's all like perception's reality. So before the lockout, we saw Seager get 325 million, and like these guys are getting, Trevor Bauer got like whatever it was, like 35 million a year, and then Max Scherzer breaks that record the next year. So everyone's like, well, these are just a bunch of like multimillionaires arguing over more money. But it's like, all right, the owners are billionaires, so don't side with them regardless. And then with the players, yes, there is that top, whatever it is, like 3% of I think it's like 20 something guys that are making like, 25 million plus a year. And then the middle of the pack is really just like, you have guys that like the average salary in Major League Baseball has gone down. Like you see these record breaking contracts, you think, oh man, like baseball is going in the right direction with paying guys more money. And we're going to see, before you know it, we might see a $500 million contract. We might see a player like we just saw like a $40 million a year salary. Like, so it's like, oh, we're on the up and up. That's just the 1%. Those guys are getting a shit ton of money. So what the players are really fighting for is for everyone else. Cause I think I saw somewhere it was like 61% of the league aren't even making it $1 million. And
wow.
so they want to raise the average salary in Major League Baseball. I think it's like 570 around there, 575. They want to raise it to like 6 something. The owners are even pushing back on that. The players want to get to free agency sooner, but they dropped that because, owners want 6 years of control for these players, and I don't blame them. And I said the solution to this is add more years of arbitration. So if you get called up, you'll get your 3 years of service time and then your first year of arbitration going into your 4th year. Why don't you just make arbitration come sooner so these players are making real money faster, but the owners get to keep the 6 years of control for the player that they drafted and developed or whatever. It seemed like a simple solution, but apparently they just threw it all out and they're just like, yeah, we'll just keep the system that everyone hates, or at least the players hate. There's the universal DH, there's the pitch clock, there's all that stuff. The league minimum was like another thing that I think they're still arguing about. They're trying to penalize teams for tanking more, like not rewarding teams that don't spend. Like instead of focusing on the teams that spend too much, because that's what happened to the Red Sox and Mookie Betts was, the Red Sox are over the luxury tax for X amount of years consecutively. So now every year that they're over it consecutively, the percentage that they get taxed gets higher. So if you keep getting they were at like 100% tax. So it's like 2 years paying Mookie Betts $50 million over 2 years would really be like paying him $200 million over 2 years. So you have all these like tax penalties for teams that spend too much, which you're discouraging teams from trying. Like you should be rewarding the teams that are like, hey, we want to spend, like we want to win.
Yeah.
Spending more is creating the job. Spending more is raising the salaries for everyone else. And then you have teams like the Pirates and the Indians and the Marlins that Max Scherzer is making more in 1 year than those entire 25-man rosters are making for an entire season. So that's kind of where it's at, is like you need to be penalizing the teams that aren't trying instead of giving them the first overall draft pick. Like I don't know if it's a lottery or whatever, or if there's a salary floor instead of a salary cap, something like that. But yeah, I'm with them on all of those things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Salary floor is an interesting idea because baseball is different because there's no salary cap. So there's really no one else to blame than the owners not wanting to spend money.
Correct. And I think with that situation too, it's less about like coming after those teams that aren't trying, and more so just like encouraging teams to spend more, because in doing so, you're going to see the average salary go up. And that's really all they want. Like they want like that 61% that isn't even making $1 million a year to like, you're in the big leagues. Like, let's start acting like it.
Yeah.
Jared, I have one baseball question and one wrestling question if you have time.
Perfect.
So baseball wise, I'm pretty sure that Dan agrees with me on this. What do you say to a fan who I'm just not fully bought in on at least the postseason approach? And I know that they do it in the regular season a little bit too, but the concept of an opener pitcher and like, I don't know, not having a guy traditionally go like 7 innings and seeing the numbers that they used to put up.
So, I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I know that like a lot of people are like, oh, the nerds are ruining baseball and whatever. I love strategy. I mean, that was the number one thing that I always butted heads with National League fans that would give me the strategy excuse for why they wanted to keep pitchers hitting in the National League. I was like, there's no strategy there. They're just going to strike out or ground out or not be able to get a bunt down. Like that's boring. But like
injure themselves swinging.
Yeah, they're gonna like tear their quad on the base paths. Like it's just stupid. Especially now when we are seeing guys like Scherzer and Bauer, like they're making like $40 million a year. Like you want to protect those investments. Like a dude like Jacob deGrom. Do I want Jacob deGrom swinging a bat? No, I don't. So it sounded before like I was against strategy in baseball. It's like no. I love strategy in baseball. I just hate pitchers hitting. It's so annoying. It's so boring. But with an opener, I know that like kind of pisses people off and they're like, like, you know, like I miss the days of Kurt Schilling going out there with his bloody sock and he's going 7 innings in Yankee Stadium. And like, if Kurt Schilling was on the Rays in 2004 and they were going against the Yankees, it's like, oh, he tore his sheath and his ankle. We're going with an opener, and then that never happens, you know?
Right.
So like I get it, but like at the end of the day, you still have a chance you're going to face 9 different dudes or whatever it is, 8 different dudes if the opener goes 2 or whatever. I don't mind it, like because it doesn't always work out. It's not like someone's pulling out like a draw 4 card on you with an opener. It's like, fuck, now I got to pick up 4 cards. You could go with an opener. It could absolutely blow up in your face. And if it blows up in your face enough times, you're going to stop doing it. And like, you'll just keep adjusting and going around for new ideas and new strategies. But I think that's why like baseball is the best, is because you can watch baseball your whole life and you're just going to continually start to see new things all the time. You know, like 20 years from now, we'll look back and be like, yeah, remember when we were doing openers? Like now we got like, you know, there's all different things that you can do 20 years from now that we haven't thought of now. So, I'm not going to sit here and say that I love it, but I'm not going to be one of these guys that are like, oh man, we got to ban the opener. It's like, no. It's the same thing with like defensive shifts. And like, do I hate it? Yeah, I do. But it's like that strategy. Like what it sucks.
I've never understood how that's something you can like have a like quote like ban against. Like it's just where players on the other team are standing. Like I understand like how you would like regulate
yeah, it would be like your third baseman and your shortstop are not allowed to cross second base
that would
like
be
before like the ball is pitched or something like that.
Hey, Bogart, 6 inches to the right, please.
Like they would
like
have
to your point about strategy, like why wouldn't you do that? Like if you know where the hitter's going to hit the ball, obviously you're going to move your players to where he's probably going to hit the ball.
I
think that's be stupid not to.
And that's why they would need to make a rule, because it does make sense. And they have all this data to back up. Like, it's like, all right, like his spray chart looks like this, and he hits the ball into this green area 87% of the time. Like, yeah, we'll put 3 guys right in that little green area. Unless you ban it, like, why wouldn't you do it? But then you kind of look at, like, let's look at balls put in play. Let's look at the number of hits across the league. And like now we're talking launch angle, and guys don't want to hit into the shift. So that's why they're hitting the ball up. And, you know, then you have the uptick in home runs. But if there's an uptick in home runs, and there's going to be an uptick in strikeouts. And if there's an uptick in strikeouts, now there's a lack of balls being put in play. And like, it's just all just a big butterfly effect. And it's a matter of preference. Like I don't go to a baseball game expecting balls to just be hammered every single at bat. Like, of course, like I want to see a guy strike out 10 batters. Like that's exciting. Like everyone's like, yeah, like strikeouts, it's so boring because nothing happens. It's like, yeah, but you get to see a strikeout. Like strikeouts are cool. I love seeing strikeouts.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I don't know. It's just a matter of preference. I don't have any issue. Like all the people that complain about pace of play. I get could guys pitch the time in between pitches delivered? Could it be shorter? Sure. But I think if you want to talk strategy, then it's like, yeah, if you're taking extra time in between pitches, that's because it's not because they're like, oh man, I really need 45 seconds to recover from that last fastball. It's, I want to give the hitter at the plate extra time to think about, like, am I going change up here? Am I going to, there's no way I'm going to throw back-to-back curveballs. Am I? And if there's a runner on base, it's like, all right, well, like the longer that I hold this ball, the more that you're going to be sweating. If like you're going to hesitate if you're going to steal or not. So it's all strategy, but it's really, if you're a diehard baseball fan, you love it because you understand that it's not just like, oh my God, throw the ball. Like, that he's taking his time for a strategic reason. It's not like he like is like texting like, hey, I got to text my girlfriend back and then I'll throw this pitch. Like there's
they're trying to win the game.
Correct. Yes.
I think that's just typically my assumption when I watch a game.
Yeah.
For both sides.
And I love it. I don't have any complaints with baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. Maybe I gotta adjust my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Last question, and it's a wrestling one. Yes. So you're a fellow New Englander, specifically Saugus. If anyone's not familiar, Saugus Rocket. Go to Kowloon.
Have to. I was there Friday night.
It's a great place. When it comes to longevity here in New England, Tom Brady allegedly is retiring after 22 seasons and at the ripe old age of 44. And I don't think anyone in professional sports or entertainment has particularly come close, except for perhaps Mae Young from the WWF. Where do you stand on this? Who do you think is more has had a more impressive feat
in their golden years? Who had a better golden era? Mae Young in her 90s or Tom Brady in his 40s?
That's a great question because Tom Brady won a Super Bowl when he was 43 and Mae Young was like 97 when she got power bombed off a stage through a table.
That's exactly
she was so
what I was
old
looking
when
to,
she
I was bringing up that exact age right now. That's the equivalent to winning a Super Bowl in your 40s, not dying, getting a Bubba Ray Dudley power bomb through a table.
So she went off a stage through a table with Bubba Ray Dudley. She also gave birth to the hand that belonged to Mark Henry, Sexual Chocolate. So
she must have been in her 60s at that point.
She
post menopause for sure. Like
it was probably right around the same time that she got power bombed off the stage.
All this happened within like 2 years. This wasn't like a big,
maybe
big
2 weeks,
frame.
Maybe 2 weeks. Honestly, she might have given birth to the hand because she got power bombed off the stage. They might have correlated with each other.
Forced her into an early delivery. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, I think that
good point.
It could be. So
God, that was
I'm gonna go with Mae Young.
Okay.
Because if you're in your 90s and you're able to do stuff like that, then God bless you.
Even what's her Linda McMahon, Vince's wife, she was taking stunners in her older age. They were pretty they were sloppy stunners. You could tell, but she would take them.
The only McMahon that can take a stunner is Shane. That's it. The rest of them suck.
We talk about this a lot. Like it really is like the ultimate like family business. Like Shane will do anything, and Vince, like give Vince his props too. Vince is like the epitome of like lead by example. Like I'll never ask you guys to do something I'm not willing to do myself.
But he actually does do that.
That's what I mean. Like it's like you don't want to fight in a Hell in a Cell. Fuck it. I'll make Shane do it. Like Shane will jump from the top on an annual basis off Hell in a Cell.
Vince McMahon has told all of his wrestlers that I won't ask you to do something that I won't physically test out myself. So when Gronk, I don't know if you saw the video, but like when Gronk was supposed to get thrown off it was like a tower at the what was that, Full Sail, when they were doing NXT. So he Gronk was like, I don't know if I want to do it. And then Vince, who was like 80 something, like climbs up there and throws himself off. And he's like, there, that's how it's done. It's like, even now, today, he will do things. The only thing that I'm sure he had never tested out was the King of the Ring 98 jumping off the Hell in a Cell through a table and getting choke slammed through the cage. Like, that's probably the only thing that he wasn't like, hey, if I don't do it, then you don't have to do it. But that was Mick's idea. He was just like, like, throw me off the fucking cell.
No, I'd actually like to do it. I'm volunteering to do it.
Yeah, he probably just had a meeting that day that he was supposed to like give it a test run.
Yeah.
I think he just told the Undertaker like right before. He was like, yeah, like, you're gonna throw me off a cell tonight. He's like,
let's take this up a notch.
Yeah.
By the way, when you were catching the beers at the parade, every time I see that video, I think of Stone Cold.
Oh yeah. Is that and Randy Moss too? Because there's one play where Coley's 7 feet tall, and someone threw me a beer, and it was like over my head and up at like Coley's hand. Which if you're, I mean, that had to have been 9 feet high if Coley's reaching for it. And yeah, he just went up and got it and just totally like Randy Mossed me. But
yeah, that's an impressive feat. That was kind of a slept on. Like every Monday night, he's going to catch a couple of these, and just dropping one's not an option. And I assume it's much harder than it looked.
Way harder.
Maybe not. I mean, you caught
blackout
it.
Drunk. I caught
it.
That's true. There's a video where someone threw me a beer. I mean, they were humming them. These were not like like, you know how you would hold a beer sideways and then underhand it up to someone so they can catch it softly. These people were like holding the beers, like the opening was going out, and they were just fucking chucking them. I got hit in the face with a beer, and I had a fat lip for the second part of the I mean, I didn't feel it. I just like ate it, and it was like, all right, who else got one? Like, I didn't catch that one. So
what happens when you're a World Series champion?
Yeah,
very good point.
Take the punches and keep it on rolling.
Good point. Good stuff, man. I know we probably kept you a little longer than we said we were, so apologize about that. But thanks for swinging by, man. Appreciate you taking some time to hop on with us.
Absolutely. We'll have to do this again. This was a lot of fun. It actually flew by.
Sure.
I didn't even realize that we were on for as long as we.
That's what everybody says.
It's a quick hour. It's a quick hour. We'll do hour.
It's a quick 60.
Week.
Yeah.
Quick 60.
The movie, by the way, I found it, is The Night House.
Okay.
That sounds promising.
It's on demand.
It's on demand. I'll
give
tweet
you a promo
like
code.
the trailer so you find the right one.
Okay. All right.
There's a lot of knockoffs, but all right, Rocket. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, guys.
And everyone else, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.